gratification. The people had a coffin painted black and solemnly born in funeral procession. They buried it deep in the earth as an emblem of the dissolution, internment of their public liberty. And someday, somewhere, today's empires, tomorrow's ashes.
On the day when we stand up and we start storming into the White House and we storming into the Capitol, storming into the Oval Office, and I'm holding y'all to be accountable. Circus act named Murder Cast, they journal facts and you learn the facts. If you try to go and spread the truth, they'll try to put you in a body bag. Puppeteers, the ones fair, and I ain't giving y'all no subliminal. Country that we're living in is ran by war criminals. America's a terrorist, I stare into his eyes. The devil's in the television wearing a disguise. Journalists, they tell the truth, their life it gets lost. Ironic, freedom of speech, it comes with a cost. Yeah, these people tryna murder me. Yeah, the government's scared of me. Yeah, these people tryna murder me. And the government's scared of me. Scared. That's some third world problems you ain't know. That's some third world problems you ain't know. That's some third world problems you ain't know. That's some third world problems you ain't know.
Mentiras, el gobierno te vende mentira. La migra, la policía, la misma porquería. Porque hay niños muriéndose de hambre. Que todo el pueblo se despierten y se levanten adelante. To the kids that be living the street, and the kids that are wishing to be in a nice old house with a white big investments out where it actually sees. Yeah, you're privileged cause their children out there dying there alone. That's some third world problems that you never ever know. La feminicidia y matar a todas las niñas. La culpa no era mía ni donde estaba ni cómo vestía. La feminicidia y matar a todas las niñas. La culpa no era mía ni donde estaba ni cómo vestía.
Yeah, these people tryna murder me. Yeah, the government's scared of me. Yeah, these people tryna murder me. Yeah, the
hands move from left to right. I stand still, lifeless in my storm. I've tried my best, but tonight my feet can't dance on this floor. My feet can't dance on this floor. It makes sense to me. It makes sense to me.
Hello? My sound on? Hey! Looks like it is. And it looks like my closed captioners are working. And it looks like most things are up and running the way they're supposed to. Welcome in, Matt. It's great to see you. First thing I have to do is apologize. I'm dirty. I'm still dirty. I have not had an opportunity to take a freaking shower yet since I changed out my ball joints yesterday. My fingernails are still grimy. I just went and bought some of the orange stuff this morning when I was returning the tool that I rented from the auto parts store. Didn't work anyway, so I had to go use somebody else's tool at their shop, which worked out really well because that person is a massive human, and when you're trying to pound out ball joints, it's helpful if your arms are this big around, like my particular friend's is. So it took him a very short amount of time to just pound them out rather than use a tool. But I had to use his tool to get it back in. But anyway, it's great to see you all. I hope everyone's having a great day today. I hope that everyone is as well as you can be in a capitalist hellscape. There, a little bit there. Hey, welcome in, Jane. Good to see you. Welcome in. I hope you're doing well. Oh, I didn't change the title. Oh, heck. That'll be okay. I don't actually know what we're going to be talking about today. So if anybody has anything that they would like to talk about, let me know, and then I can just talk about that. But I thought about the possibility of playing some Kwame Ture today. Because Kwame Ture gives us some valuable lessons about imperialism that helps us to dismantle some of the colonial language and some of the colonial tools. Gives us good context for understanding those things, I think. Stokely Carmichael, that's the, I was trying to remember their birth given name last stream. Kwame Ture is their chosen African name, their African diaspora name. And then don't forget the eyeliner for the JD Vance look. No, I would not be able to pull off the JD Vance look. But I have thought about putting incorporating eyeliner anyway. Of course, it would look much better on me than it does on JD Vance, but yeah, and I'm not sure if it's one of those things where if you say that I can't do something well, but what you're talking about is look like JD Vance. Thanks. Thanks. Appreciate that compliment. You are right. I don't do that well. Thanks for noticing. Heard of the YouTuber Anarch? Yes. He does content on anarchist theory and praxis, social anarchist perspective. Yeah, I'm familiar with Anarch. I'm not very familiar with Anarch. Let me be clear. I'm aware of Anarch. I've seen several of their videos, so I've seen some of their content, but I haven't watched a lot of their content. So I don't know them really well, but I am familiar with Anarch. And in general, they seem to be all right. The bits I've seen. Right, and so nobody's over on YouTube yet, it looks like, or nobody's talking yet over on YouTube. The Nightbot is going ham. I don't know what is going on with the timers. I didn't change anything from last stream, even though I was supposed to. Again, I haven't really had much time to do anything stream related, but I had intended to change some of the Nightbot timer stuff, and when I started stream, it just was like bam, 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 like a whole bunch of posts all at once on YouTube. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. I disabled half of the timers, so there are still some timers, but I've disabled a bunch of them. It's not really that big of a deal. Really, I need to go on and change the settings here too. There's a few things that I ought to do before we get too started on stream today. Because I also would like to change something. Right now, if somebody tries to type "lol" into the chat, it's a banned word, so it just won't let them. Or it asks me to approve or deny their comment. And I would like instead for it to trigger an event where instead of posting the thing that the user has said, it replaces what they've said. So it'll say something for them to them about Total Biscuit and why I hate. Well, you have to use the all capitals LUL to do the Total Biscuit emote. That's the thing that doesn't come up. It did come up. Well, it's supposed to be banned. Damn it. Okay, so lol. Well, it's, you know what? It just occurred to me. I had done it on Stream Elements, and I might not have gone through. I am immune. I might not have gone through and done that for. Or do you think that it's because you're a mod? It would let me do it too, then, wouldn't it? Yeah, it will let me do it. No, I can't do that from here. But I do want. Can't I delete comments from here? No. No, I have to go into the mod options to be able to delete the thing. There's probably a quick command for delete your last comment. I don't remember what that is. Yeah, and I count as a mod too, I think. I think I have the same mod privileges. My mod action. Okay. I thought that I knew how to mod, but clearly I don't. Oh, there we go. Well, no, because that's going to do something else. Can pin the message. Ah, there we go. Delete. It's been a while since I've tried to do any mod things, so I don't really have a lot of practice or experience with how to mod. We'll just leave the mod view up, I guess, for now. Why is it still? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But so that's one of the things that I want to do today is I want to do that. Write a list because I'm gonna forget. Stream notes. Want to wall thing. What was the other thing that I needed to do? I need to silence Nightbot, so that doesn't show up at all in the chat, which means it'll have to clear the chat. But if we do it at the beginning of stream, then it'll just be done. This thing. It has with the option post mod stream bots via delete, do not show bot message. Oh, so I don't. Social Stream Ninja is really cool in that it was very easy to get set up, but it does not have a lot of customization features. Right? Like, it's actually quite lacking on the features so that you can do cool stuff. It looks like I have to get rid of all the bots. So let's here now. Then this. So that triggers the thing, but then it won't show that it is. It is showing. Not supposed to. Oh, because this isn't a bot. Ha! It doesn't matter. Okay, so it will block out Nightbot, but I don't show up. This fire bot doesn't show up as a bot. It shows up as me. It posts stuff as me. Which I will change eventually. I would like for some of the things to be me, but some of the things to also be a bot. I just haven't made the bot. I have to create another Twitch account that'll be the bot account, and then sync it up. And I just haven't done that. Again, I haven't had time. But that brings up something that I want to discuss or want to pose and see what people think. I kind of don't like streaming on Fridays. Last Friday, I just wasn't able to stream, right? I had to skip the stream, and so I did a stream over the weekend instead because some stuff came up, some things moved around in my schedule, and then I needed that morning to do other stuff. And this morning is also one of those days where stuff moved around on me, and it would have been easier. I would have had a better time not streaming at the regular time today because I'm dirty. I still haven't taken a shower. There's other things that post me doing the work on the van. There's other things that I need to do on the van, with the van, to troubleshoot and check things, and I haven't had a chance to do any of those things. So I'm thinking that I like Wednesday. Wednesday seems to be a good day in the middle of the week. Lots of people are able to show up during that time, especially now that I'm streaming later. That 1 hour difference seems to make a big deal for you all. So I like the Wednesday slot. I'm thinking about doing away with Friday and maybe doing a regular weekend day, either Saturday or Sunday. And that would really come down to you all. When it comes to my weekends are very flexible. I don't have any school stuff that's time sensitive or pressing that I've got to get done during the weekends at all. Well, I guess now that I think about it, when my New Hampshire job starts, when my New Hampshire semester begins, I will have stuff to do Sunday afternoon. And I'm not going to want to stream and then do that stuff. I know me. If I stream, when I'm done streaming, I'm going to go light up a joint and play some Genshin and relax my brain a little bit. It's that's my habit so far. But yeah, so Saturday would be the day. And I would probably pick a time slot that's similar. Maybe 1 to 5 as well. I could probably do that one earlier, though. I don't know that I would be interested in doing it much later. Starting like at 2 and going to 6, I think would be, well, that's doable. That's doable. But after that, I think it's getting kind of late because I have a tendency to go over, right? Especially now that I'm building my endurance up. 4 hours of streaming is not really that big of a deal. So usually I end up streaming. Most of my streams are at least 4 hours, 4 and 20, 4 hours and 40, somewhere in that ballpark. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking about. That Fridays are a little tough for me, so maybe I'll move my my schedule around and start doing a weekend stream instead of 2 in the week, 2 weekday stream, a weekday and then a weekend stream. That might be the ticket. All right, so do I want to bother changing the stream title? I really kind of don't think so. I don't think that I really need to. Yeah, that's what, I mean, I'm pretty sure that we'll end up talking about freedom, liberty, and authority today, and then also interpolation and narrative. Oh yeah, especially because on Wednesday's stream, I had intended to spend much more time talking about narrative. And I really didn't. So maybe we will keep the title the same, and the focus for today's stream will be more on the narrative side. So a good place to begin that conversation would be, again, to appeal to Michel Foucault. There's, give me a second. Let me think about. I want to say that it's in the order of things. That the thing I'm thinking of specifically. But it might also be in power knowledge. Now that I think about it, it's probably more likely in power knowledge. So Michel Foucault's work, Power Knowledge, or whichever, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the work is. Let me just talk about the idea. The idea that Michel Foucault contends with. This is something that I've talked a little bit about on the channel before a few times, but I haven't gone into great detail about. Today's the day, I guess. So when we look back on history, let's actually rewind. So rather than thinking about history right now, let's rewind about 100 years. Say a ballpark, right? About 100 years ago, if you were a history student. You were interested in studying history, going to college to be a historian 100 years ago. What that would have entailed is that you would have read a bunch of other people's historical accounts, and you would learn and memorize those historical accounts, and then you would regurgitate that story, because it would be one continuous story, right? It would be one narrative. That's where we're going. One narrative. It would be one story, one conception, one viewpoint, one account. And that's how history used to be taught. That's how we used to think about history in general 100 years ago only, right? So it's not even that far back that we can go back, and academic history is this person who is regurgitating all of the ideas and information that this person had regurgitated, all of the ideas and information that this person had regurgitated, all of the ideas and that this person had regurgitated, on and on and on, right? History was a series of narratives that people collected together to make their own narrative, and then they would hand that narrative off to the next cohort of historians, and those historians would learn all of those things, take that up and create their own narrative, and then hand that narrative off to the next generation. Yes, and yes. And it's always the white narrative, right? One way that this is sometimes expressed is the victor gets to tell the story, right? The history is told by the victor. That's what it is. Yeah, white. History is told by the victor, and so I'm going to say yes to that. Welcome in, Street Cat Love. It's good to see you. I'm going to say yes, that it is that's history is told by the victor is a large part of the problem that we're dealing with, but it's not all of the problem. It's not simply that. Hey, welcome. Good to see you over there on the other on the other app too, on the other platform. It's yes, it's much more than that. It's the right, the historians used to believe, many of them, I wouldn't say all of them necessarily, like well, we should go back further than 100 years anyway. Though I mean, I guess that's still about correct. Yeah. Which emote is it? The oh, the cheers to that. Yeah, that one's super cute. Yeah, we all right with the Heritage Foundation, right? We all know that that's when history actually began. Right. So historians might have at some point argued about the truth of the state of affairs at some particular time. They might have looked at a number of different first-hand sources, and then the historian would look at those first-hand sources and decide which one of those was the correct interpretation, the correct account. So it's the idea that there was one truth, that there was one history, that we can look back on our historical timeline and it is one single linear line, right? This is how history used to think about history. History as an academic study, as an academic school, used to think about our past as a single linear line, and we had to find out what the truth was along that linear line. We would just find the evidence and figure out what the true thing was. But Michel Foucault comes along, and instead of, as a historian, instead of choosing which of the competing narratives to choose as the correct narrative among many, Michel Foucault went about building a bunch of alternative truths about history, about states of affairs in the world in the past. And from the diversity of viewpoints, we come to understand postmodernism in a completely different way, right? So if we think about authors like Marx and Hegel and Heidegger pointing us toward, well, maybe Marx doesn't fit neatly into this camp, but Heidegger, Hegel, and the other pre-postmodernists, right? They led us down a direction where when we get to the end of that direction, the truth about the world that's revealed is that there is no objective truth about the world that we can know. And even though philosophy had that idea for about 180, almost 200 years, it took history a long time to catch up to that idea, and for historians to go, wait a minute, right after Michel Foucault's work and after Gramsci and lots of other historians had begun to unpack the complicated web that actually is our understanding of our past, we came to understand that there isn't an objective truth to be known about history either. And this has a number of significant impacts too. The corridor versus branching approaches. Yes, yeah. Absolutely. Yes. That exact thing. And one of the consequences that becomes immediately apparent to somebody like me, who spends a lot of time thinking about people's modes of judgment and how those modes of judgment come to be informed, anytime we have a revision of the past, or a past which is static, rather, a past which is dynamic rather than static, what we have is this flux. That this is where free will comes in for us. If you'll remember, when we're trying to make decisions about what to do in the world, most of the judgments that we make in real time are judgments that are actually already made. They're the kind of judgments that we're going to make in a kind of way because we've become the kind of person that we are. We've developed a habit of making those judgments, and so for the most part, most of our daily judgments are choices among a few variations that are all leading us along the same relative path. Where we get the opportunity to really change ourselves, where we get the opportunity to express our free will, is in how we reinterpret our past. When we think back on the things that have happened to us and we remember them, or reframe them, or rephrase, or recategorize. When we make shifts and changes to our categorical understanding of ourselves, of our own past, that's where our ability to make changes to our own lives is. That's where that opportunity lies. It's not in our everyday choices that we are making right now in the present. Again, most of those decisions are already made. Let's think about an example. If you are hungry, there are a number of things that you might eat. right? And there's going to be a pool or an open set, right? A large set of different kinds of things that might go into, if we're thinking about this mathematically, or programming, right? That would be the same way. We have a set of things that are appropriate for us to eat. And that set probably doesn't change very much for most of us. Like, we don't come across new foods that we haven't experienced on a daily basis. Most of us eat the same categories or kinds of things. You might eat oatmeal in a bunch of different ways, right? With raisins, or with apples and some cinnamon, or with cranberries, whatever, however it is that you vary your oatmeal, but you're still eating the same basic kind of thing, right? No matter how you spice up your oatmeal, it's still oatmeal. And for a lot of our choices, a lot of our daily decisions, the clothes that you put on, right? You've curated your clothing. When you make choices in the morning or whenever you get dressed about what you're going to put on, you're not really making any judgments. Not real judgments. You're picking from a pre-selected group of options that you have curated yourself, so that you don't have to actually think about what shirt you're going to wear, or you don't have to think much. You've only got 20 shirts to choose from, or 20, however many shirts that you have. So a lot of our everyday decisions are already made. What you're going to have for breakfast, what you're going to have for lunch, what you're going to have for dinner, those decisions, you feel kind of like you're making the decision, well, what am I going to make for lunch right now? But it was determined by your past. You went to the grocery store and picked up X groceries. You have X things to choose from to eat, right? So when it comes to you making the decision, that has already been made. You were at the grocery store and you made those decisions when you bought your groceries. And you kind of made those decisions before you got to the grocery store when you prepared your grocery list. And before you prepared your grocery list, you already have a subset of things that are acceptable and a whole set of things that are not acceptable. It's already been pre-decided. Degrees of freedom are determined by paradigms or systems. Yes, and that's kind of what I'm getting. That's a good way to summarize the general idea that I'm on about, Jane. That's a very good way to summarize it. My ADHD makes what is in my fridge irrelevant if I don't already know it's takeout. That's also a good pushback too. And there are different ways that different people map their frameworks of understanding the world, and that's people that have ADHD. They have certain kinds of frameworks, and those frameworks don't always work the same way. I can attest to that sometimes I end up shifting from one framework to a completely different framework so that I can do a different kind of task. And that's because of my ADHD. There are certain kinds of tasks that I just cannot do in the other framework because I'm too receptive and I'm too paying attention to too many of the things. Like, I can't think of any good examples, but I definitely know what you mean there, Matt. But we do have little itty bitty degrees of freedom, right? We have degrees of freedom. And I would argue where most of that freedom lies is again, when we contemplate on ourselves and we remember our past, and when we remember, well, think about, like if you make a mistake, I'm trying to think of the mistake. There was something that I did recently that, right. So, recently I was at a party, a social function. There was a lot of people there, a lot of social goings on. And in these kinds of situations, I actually have a tendency to get really overwhelmed, but I hide it well. And the thing that's kind of neat is that sometimes when I get overwhelmed, I become a little bit more outgoing somehow. I don't know how or why, but my mouth just starts going, and like my brain doesn't process things the same way, and I don't really. Yes, it's purely masking. It's I go into auto mode where I'm masking, and my brain just keeps my mouth talking. And as long as I'm talking, I don't have to figure out the complicated social situations that I don't understand. There's all kinds of stuff going on, other things that other people are doing, and I don't get any of that for the most part. Right? When it comes to having a conversation, I'm there. Right? But when it comes to other kinds of social interactions, I'm really not always so great. So I recently had an interaction where I had walked up to a group of two people who were already having a conversation, and it was a natural point in their conversation for me to interject, and there was that comfortable moment where two people were talking and now three people are talking and we're having some back and forth. And then I was like, well, I'm thirsty. I'm going to go grab a drink from the fridge. And I did. And then I came back to that group. And those two people had kind of moved on and were having another conversation. So I walked up and stood there and I looked at them a little bit and then I walked away. And after the fact, it occurred to me that that might be taken as kind of a rude gesture. You know, we were having a conversation. I said, I'll be right back. And then I came back, but then I just left. And so I've been thinking about this an awful lot. I've been trying to move some of the variables around, thinking about where all the other people were, and maybe trying to decide whether I've done something offensive or done something innocent that nobody even notices. But I'm thinking about it, and the reason why I'm thinking about it is because I'm considering changing some of my programming, some of my habits, and some of my patterns, and some of the ways that I instinctually invest myself in the world. I can mull that over, and I can mull that over in a way that later, when I'm in similar kinds of situations, something in the back of my brain is going to be like, hey, remember that time? Right? That's how we change, is by thinking about ourselves, imagining the situations that we've been in our past, imagining the kinds of responses that we imagine people have had to our actions, and thinking about what we want people's responses to be from our actions. What kind of actions do I need to do to get those kinds of responses, right? This is how we change us. But this isn't, again, we think that we are making free will decisions every day in our everyday lives, but we're really not. When it comes to the free will that we have, much of that is in here. It takes place in your mind while you're reaccounting, while you're re-remembering, while you're reframing, while you're thinking about yourself and your past and the significance of the things of your past. So now let's go back to the greater conversation that we were having about narrative and history, and how there's not one history, but rather a bunch of competing narratives. And these competing narratives give us new meaning when we reinterpret or re-understand the things that we thought were true about our past. So when we're talking about destroying, obliterating the single narrative, which I argue that we should do, that's probably a better way for us to understand our being in time as beings who are in time, is that we obliterate the single one narrative. But this leads to the problem lack of reference. If we remember the Jameson work that we talked about on stream a while ago, I should just pull it up. I think I still have it pulled up. If we remember the Jameson work, one of the things that Jameson is talking about is that the art that people see today lacks the kind of social, cultural, and historical referent with a T plural, reference that we would need to understand what the artist or author is trying to convey. So let's remember the conversation that we had with Apolitical Daddy, who the first time they saw Star Wars didn't get all of the imperialist, colonial elements of the story, which Lucas and the other creators of Star Wars intended. But they intended viewers to watch the movies Star Wars and to take away from them imperialism is bad. That's supposed to be, yes, is about America and Vietnam, right? It's supposed to tell us a story about us, about our history, about our lives, about significant things that we should really care a lot about. But if we don't have one single historical referent that we are all referencing when we are understanding art and literature, then we've got this complication. We've got this disconnect. There's a kind of schizophrenia that that presents itself when people in the world don't recognize the social and cultural indicators that that other people in culture and society all get, right? That there's a single interpretation. With a lot of the stuff that we are talking about, there really kind of is or can be a single interpretation. With science, right? Or when we are analyzing certain kinds of mathematical problems, what we get is something that's very consistent, very uniform, very absolute. But that's not the case when it comes to understanding art. That's not the case when it comes to understanding literature, and it's certainly not the case when it comes to understanding our actual history. So we've got this problem that was talked about by Frederick Jameson, where the art that is supposed to be compelling us to have a revolution, the art that is supposed to be telling us about class consciousness and about imperialism and about these other things, all of that art falls dead. All of that art remains ineffective. And it remains ineffective because people are missing that cultural referent, right? That they don't identify it as a cultural referent that they're supposed to identify in that way that it was intended. So there's been some kind of breakdown in language and understanding in the artists who are trying to convey these kinds of ideas and their demographic, their audience, us, right? And there's some advantage to trying to establish some truths about the past, though. So, as I was talking about this, I'm reminded of a few streams ago when the troll came in and was talking about why Mao was bad, because Mao was responsible for the preventable starvation of millions of people. the truth, right? If there is a truth about the past, if there's one truth about the past, that the truth that I appealed to overcome that person's bad argument about Mao was to look back at the history of all of the famines, thousands and thousands of years. If there's one truth, fuck Nixon. Yes, fuck Nixon. So recently I had, who was it? Was it that chap? There was some streamer that I was watching that we were all dogging on Nixon because that's what you do. Every time you get the opportunity, that's always the right thing to do. But one of the things that the streamer pointed out, I think it was that chap, but could be wrong, was that while Nixon gets a lot of the blame for, well, everything, right? Most of our social and economic problems in America can be traced back to Nixon. But Nixon didn't put himself in office. Nixon was elected fairly. Well, quote unquote fairly. In the United States, nobody has freedom of knowledge or freedom of information. So, Nixon got elected on a bunch of lies, like every other president before and since. Right? It was pure propaganda. But we have to look at the organizations, the think tanks. It was that chap, because after we had the conversation, that chap did a deep dive on think tanks and why those are actually bad, and that's where the source of much of those bad ideas come from. And this is very similar to Jane on the last stream. No, it wasn't Jane. Who was it? I don't remember who it was. Somebody said something about, well, what if you say that I have the wrong idea, but you tell everybody else that they should follow it anyway? Well, that's what think tanks are. That's what, especially conservative right-wing think tanks, they're all about. How can we fuck up history? How can we ruin people's understanding of the world? How can we destroy and obliterate people's understanding of their own place and their own position and their own relative values in the world? How can we ruin all of that? That's usually what those think tanks are designed to do, is to get people to stand millionaires and to get people to be on board with their own exploitation, to get people on board with their own lack of freedom, so that they beg, that people will ask for their rights to be taken away. Literally is a thing that has happened historically. That's not to say Nixon isn't evil. Nixon is absolutely evil, is getting roasted in hell. Even though I don't believe in hell, I still believe that Nixon is getting roasted somewhere. Don't think that hell is a real thing, but I believe that Nixon is getting some kind of eternal torment for being such an awful, terrible human being. But yeah, oppress me harder, government zaddy. Yeah, Churchill taught Nixon fascism, and people love Churchill. That's a really good point, Matt. That people on the left will dogpile on Nixon all day long, and then never have any critiques of Churchill. Right? But I think that's absolutely true. Yeah, who taught it to Roger Stone? Yeah. Yep. But let's say, and that's here. But and here's what we have to contend with is, yeah. So here's what we have to contend with is that there is an important truth about reality. And that truth is that no one person has objective access to material reality. Therefore, no one can tell you that your experience of the world is wrong or invalid. This is part of the reason why we can push back on people when they say transgenders aren't a thing. Well, yes, we do actually exist. And we exist, the truth that we exist is in our experiences, in our accounts, in how we understand the world as individuals. And that's why nobody else can tell me that I'm not transgender. That's not something anybody else can do. Nobody can tell you that you are or not anything. That's right. Nobody can tell you that you are or are not anything. You might be something, right? So, well, there's some complications with this too, right? So, I mean, if you tell lies, you are a liar. Whether or not you believe that you are, and if other people say that you are, that is a true statement about the world. It's a true statement about states of affairs. If you are a lying person and people call you a liar, regardless of what you believe, you are. They are correct, right? Well, how is gender different? How is it the case that somebody can say, well, you're a male, and I go, no, I'm not. But that has validity and veracity, and I'm a cat now, right? Right? But there is a difference. There is a real meaningful difference to me saying I am a they, them, that is not the same as somebody online who says, I identify as an attack chopper now, right? Like, those are clearly not the same. So what is the difference? What is the difference? Because we have to figure this out for us to be able to make sense of history in a way that is also helpful and meaningful, but also not dogmatic, right? We want to be able to have conversations about history. We should be able to reinterpret our history and reframe our history in ways that help us to grow and learn and change in ways that we want to grow and learn and change. We ought to be able to establish truths about the past and truths about the reality of the present. But we have conflicts in how we understand the world. Some people insist that gender is a binary. You can only be two. I mean, that's strictly not true scientifically in any meaningful way. There's, in fact, I'm pretty sure I can get away with saying this. Please, somebody, if this is not a correct statement, correct me. But I'm fairly confident that there is no species on the planet that is only comprised of males and females. I'm pretty positive that no such species exists, that there are kinds of species that are asexual or that don't have genders in the way that we think about them at all, or species have genders and those genders are diverse and varied. There might be typifications. Oh, we haven't had that conversation yet. Like scientifically speaking, typifications. There are phenotypes, right? If we want to appeal to the bimodal distribution chart of gender, for those of you who have seen that, it's a bimodal distribution. You've got two humps. and one of those humps is generally male and one of those humps is generally female, and those humps overlap, right? It's not you have two bell curves. You have two bell curves, but those bell curves are mostly intersected. More of the bell curves are the same than is different between those. And those bell curves of gender that we can see the phenotypical differences in gender are going to be about things like has a deep voice, has more or less body hair, right? In these things are generally, you can find groups of characteristics that are typically this or typically that, right? This is the why I say typification. That's different than a hasty generalization. Usually I have a whole class that when I'm teaching ethics, there's a whole class that I dedicate to this conversation between hasty generalizations and scientifically valid generalizations that we call typifications. That's the easiest way that I've figured out to nuance between those two ideas. We can come up with typifications, but those typifications are categorical understandings of the world that we have invented to understand the world. So it's the Pluto problem again, right? Any way that we think about gender, we're going to run into the same Pluto problem. Gender isn't something that's necessarily concretely true about the world. It's not. It's simply not something that is categorically, fundamentally, necessarily true about the world. The universe doesn't care about what gender is or whose gender is what. The universe doesn't care about those kinds of things. The universe cares about existing. And it's just a category that our brains have invented to group and understand what things are or are not in the world. It's purely social construct. Gender is metaphysical, right? It's metaphysical, but it's not necessarily ontological. That's a good. Thank you, Jane, for giving me the opportunity to make this distinction. So, maybe I should pull up the philosophy tree. Do I still have a quick and ready access philosophy tree ready to go? Somewhere. It's been a while since I've tried to look up the archive. Logic symbols. Oh, I thought for sure this would be where it was. Well, if it's not there, I don't know where it's gonna be. It could. No, it's not gonna be there. Reason why I don't have it ready access is because it's a philosophy 101 thing that I teach in philosophy 101, and I haven't taught philosophy 101 in like 4 years. Much to my dismay. It's my favorite class to teach. I way prefer teaching philosophy 101 over teaching We'll have to go into check that out later. No, I don't have it here. What a bummer. And I don't know where I'm going to have it. I have it somewhere. It doesn't matter. Okay, so the philosophy tree. When I say the philosophy tree, there's an outline that I have that has all of the various branches of philosophy. There are only 5. There are 5 branches of philosophy. No, there are 4. Excuse me. MEAL. Metaphysics, epistemology, axiology, and logic. These are the branches of philosophy. Everything that is philosophy fits into one of these branches. Period. So metaphysics has a few parts of that are broken up. And the first subsection under metaphysics is ontology, which is the study of being or the nature of being. Then there's cosmology, and then there's it's the metaphysics epistemology discussion. Right, so that would be a subheading under metaphysics, but that same conversation is also a subheading under epistemology. Metaphysics, epistemology, axiology, logic, that same thing is under both. So there, for about 2,500 years, there has been an ongoing debate in philosophy about, and I've talked about this, right? Whether epistemology precedes metaphysics or whether metaphysics precedes epistemology. And so that's the concern where gender is. That's I know it was a long tangent to get back to what Jane was talking about, but gender is metaphysical. Gender is metaphysical, but it's not ontological, I would argue. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe somebody will have some pushback on that. But I believe that authors like Judith Butler would agree with me on this, that gender might have, well, no, it really is. It's, yeah. I'm just thinking, I'm going through the catalog of Judith Butler's works. Judith Butler won't stop writing new stuff. I cannot keep up with their stuff because they just won't stop writing fantastic philosophy. But I'm going through the catalog of Judith Butler's stuff to make sure that I'm not making any errors, but I'm pretty sure Judith Butler would agree with me. I think that authors like Kate Mann would agree with me. Trying to think of other recent philosophers. But, to contrast this, I think that someone like Simone de Beauvoir might push back against. Or D'Altes. Maybe that would be a better reference to go with. D'Altes would push back in the vein of Simone de Beauvoir. But that pushback is that's an appeal to archetypes, which I think still also collapses back into the social construct and is epistemology, not ontology. I think that that's epistemology, not ontology. Right, but I guess I should talk about that. So there is, the argument goes that if womanhood were purely a social construct invented by patriarchy and patriarchs to force this divide and to right, if womanhood was the invention of patriarchy, the argument goes, it's nearly inconceivable that all the women throughout all of history who have identified with that gender role could be so fooled, right? That's how the argument goes, that when women think about how to be and who to be and what they're going to be, that there is, regardless of what patriarchy says, right? Now, patriarchy says a lot, and patriarchy colors the things that are, right? But that there is something. There is some ineffable thing that is womanhood that many women aspire to, and that this womanhood is not an invention of patriarchy. That it's a natural, normal thing for people to be, and some people feel compelled, some people feel in that category, whether or not patriarchy. And I don't know how I feel about that argument. I teach that argument. We talk about it in the classroom, but I'm really in when I'm talking about stuff in the classroom, I present it as though this is the truth always, right? So it's really funny because sometimes I'll be like, this is the truth, and then the next day I'll be like, this is the truth, and it's something completely off the wall, absolutely like directly contradictory. But that's me keeping my students on my toes and hoping that somebody goes, wait a minute, professor, isn't that contradictory? Aren't you contradicting yourself from yesterday? Yes, good. Somebody's paying attention, right? Good, because that's what I want, is for them to pick up on the inconsistencies and differences. Anyways, but when I am advocating for this kind of belief, it's really kind of hard because I simply just don't believe that that's the case. I think that that all of our ideas of gender are purely socially constructed. Metaphysical. That's what Facebook is going to call your doctor after they break into healthcare and start monopolizing. Yeah, physical. Funny. I mean, it's a clever name, but but I don't know how I really feel about that. As a they them who has a hard time looking up to any archetype for how I ought to be, maybe I'm just biased, right? Maybe I don't understand that kind of connection just because I don't have that kind of connection. There's or rather, the connection that I have always had has been to the masculine, and that connection has always been gross and ill-fitting for me. I've always felt that it's not appropriate, that it's not accurate, that it's not really a category that I fit neatly into, despite when I was younger, despite all of my best efforts, right? I fulfilled the role well, such that I was recognized by culture and society as male for the vast majority of my life. But that doesn't have anything to do with how I feel. That doesn't have anything to do with me aspiring to be any kind of thing because I want to be that, because I identify with the archetype. I was punished by culture and society whenever I deviated from my role as masculine, right? So it's really I'm a woman regardless of archetype. And see, that's the kind of thing that and that's the reason why I was saving that space for the pushback, because it might be the case that I'm just not that kind of being that has that kind of connection, that I can feel that kind of that I can feel that archetype in the world for me. And that you can, Jane, is not something that I want to take away. Well, and this is I'm not sure if we had the full conversation about gender liberation versus gender abolition. I think that I started to talk about it and then got distracted, as I do. Gender abolition is more extreme. The idea of gender abolition is that we do away with gender because gender doesn't serve culture and society. Actually, it doesn't help us be better people. It only limits what is potentially possible for us. And there is a lot of reasonable pushback against this. And I think that I brought this up in the Discord too. There's the conversation that has to do with gender and language and being gender on the Discord. It seems, even if you believe that the way that gender roles have existed for history has been oppressive, right? Even if you believe that the way that gender roles have existed has been oppressive, that doesn't give you the right to eradicate things that other people find meaningful about themselves, right? If we do away with gender entirely, gender abolition, then there is no room for this. There is no room for the way that Jane feels. And that I think is kind of problematic too, right? How is that not oppressive? How is that not oppressive if you feel there's an archetype for you and you would like to be that and you live up to that and you're happy? That's, so that's why I focus on gender liberation, so that people can be whatever they want to be. And if that means that they are no gender, I support that as well. I don't necessarily support the idea of enforcing the idea that we entirely do away with gender. If that is a natural consequence of shifts and changes in social attitudes over time, such that humanity gets to the point where nobody feels like they really fit any gender anymore, cool, that's fine. But that would be generations from now, right? That's not something that would happen anytime in the near future. For the way that we exist in the world, gender is an important thing for a lot of people for very important reasons. And so abolishing gender, it has some problematic elements to it systematically, right? As an end goal that we would be striving toward, I think that gender abolition has a lot of dangerous. There are some thresholds that I think would just be crossed there. Might be a good way to say it. Yeah, the big truck boys love their gender affirming Cummins diesel. Yep. Yeah, and that's when I think about my gender performance when I was younger, I knew the right things to do and I knew how to be, right? I was a beer drinker and I didn't drink wine. Not because I didn't like wine, I actually loved the taste of wine. But there are stereotypes, right? And I fit the stereotype. I was good at grilling and I was good at making certain kinds of food, but I would steer away from baking, and those I love to bake now. That's actually my favorite. I would much rather bake now any day than cook. But there are stereotypes that I identified, and I wanted to be accepted. I wanted to not be punished for deviance when I was younger. I was very concerned about avoiding deviance. I was raised in an abusive household, so I was a people pleaser, and part of that is that I find ways to make myself invisible, right? On purpose, I go out of ways to erase my individuality and ways to erase my any difference or deviance. I'm just like the rest of you. I'm just like the rest of you. Don't look too closely, right? I'd rather cook. You can bake. Thanksgiving will be delicious, right? Yeah. Well, and that's when it comes to finding people to be with. This is a good aside. There's when it comes to dating, the best advice that anyone can give you about dating is that you really, really, really need to try your absolute hardest to be your authentic self. If you're dating and you're meeting people and you're trying to find whether or not you match up, don't go to dates and then pretend to be somebody that you're not. Don't do that. If you're not interested in Civil War history, don't pretend to be because she is, or because he is, or because they are. That's a big mistake, because you are going to spend the rest of your relationship maintaining that facade, maintaining that mask, and pretending to be somebody that you're not for the sake of the relationship. If you want to be in a happy, healthy relationship, you should begin by being honest with yourself and trying as hard as you possibly can to be your authentic self. Anything else is only going to cause you much more headache and stress and frustration in the future. Just be yourself, and you'll attract other kinds of people that complement you, right? You'll attract somebody else who likes to cook when you like to bake, or if you like to eat, right? You'll attract the right kind of person by being honest. Well, okay. Well, but at the same time, that still saves a lot of time for everybody. If you're a bigot, then you may as well just be honest about your bigoted behavior so everybody knows to just avoid you. You don't need to be in a relationship, you bigoted piece of shit. No relationship for you. My uncle is on this filter. Right on. It's going to be a great Thanksgiving. But that's even I don't know, because I want to say, like, if you're a racist, be racist. Don't pretend not to be racist on your date. If you are, let the person know so that they put up those red flags. By all means, put up those red flags so people know to avoid you and to stay away from you, and that you're not a good person. No, I mean, I guess some people are attracted to red flags. Yeah, and that's a whole other conversation, I guess. Yeah, people. Yeah, that's the thing. They pretend to be libs, and this is I think that this has to do with the lonely man syndrome too, right? That for men to be able to go out on dates and to date, they have to pretend to be libs. Otherwise, they are not dateable. And then they end up in a relationship with somebody that they can't be honest to. So even though, somebody is lonely, and so they're pretending to be somebody else so that they can be in a relationship, but they're pretending. So they can't even be themselves and be with the person in a real way, so they're still lonely. And that's the real takeaway. A lot of these lonely men who are married, they are pretend people. They are facades. They don't know who they are. I would probably argue in most cases that most of those people have never spent any amount of time on self-reflection to find out who it is that they actually are. They are the consequence of social reinforcement, right? They are the positive or negative reinforcement that they have gotten throughout culture and society, and nothing more. I hate to say this, that I believe that most people are that, but I believe that most people are automatons. They are the product, they are a function. Ooh, going back to the conversation from last stream, they are purely a function of culture and society. So whatever interpolation they receive, whatever interpolation they get, they output. And that's it. There's no choice, there's no critical thinking, there's no self-evaluation, there's no reflection. They are, and then they wonder why they're miserable, why they're lonely, and why they're sad, and why their life is unfulfilling. It's because they've been living a lie their entire life so that they won't be punished by culture and society. Say self-fulfilling prophecy. Yeah, absolutely. Say the slur and move on. Right. Yeah, so I feel bad for these people. Well, I feel a little bit bad. This is very similar to the conversation that we had weeks ago about the there was a girl who was kicked out of school, but like suspended for a week or two, I don't remember, for wearing an inappropriate flag on her shirt to school. She was sent home, and it turned out that her parents had set her up on purpose. They had sent her to school with a flag that they thought was going to be inflammatory. And then the girl, didn't get in trouble for the first 2 or 3 periods of their school. And so they did something. The girl did something to draw attention to the shirt, so that it would be something that they would get sent home for, right? And then there's a GoFundMe set up for supporting that, giving a whole bunch of money to this girl, this teenager who got sent home from school, and it amassed thousands and thousands. People are just throwing money at this little teenager who is being groomed by her parents to be a fascist bigot. She is being groomed by her parents into a fucking cult, so that she is going to be a horrible, disgusting monster for the rest of her life. Right? And I feel bad for her. For being the victim of being groomed by a cult. That's not her fault that she was born to those awful, terrible human being of parents. But the way that I feel bad for her only goes so far. Right? She's a child who at this point doesn't know any better. And she's going to grow up to be a child who should know better. She's going to grow up into an adult child, because I think that most conservatives, most right-wingers are just giant toddlers. They're just old toddlers, giant babies running around, upset that the whole world isn't exactly the way that they want it to be, and so they're going to make it that way, or they're going to make you miserable about it. But at some point she should know better. And I don't know what that point is, right? If you have lived your entire life in indoctrination, or let's talk about the children who in the 1800s, right? In the United States, in America, if you were a child, let me clarify even more. If you're a white child, one of the games you might have played is Stone the N-Word, which is a game that for well over 100 years white people were having their children play, where they throw rocks at other children, right? Little white children are conditioned by their parents that this is a fun game. We're going to have this enslaved person run back and forth, and you're going to try to hit them with a rock. This is a real thing. This is really in your history. Those people were conditioned to think it's a game, to brutalize other children. A game to brutalize non-white children, which is evil to do to those white kids. I mean, it's of course evil to have done it to the non-white kids. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying poor these people and not poor these people, but these people are the victims too. But then they become corrupted and they get these asinine, absurd worldviews. And then they go on to be professors. They go on to be pastors. They go on to be politicians. The world you live in, if you're in America, the world you live in was created by a whole cohort of people who were conditioned to brutalize non-white children as a game. Yeah, there I go saying white again. Yep. Yep. I'm deeply disgusted as a white person. Yep, I agree. And that's why I don't identify as white, right? To the extent that I'm able. I live in a culture and society, right? And this goes back to the conversation that we were having about being so named or being so identified when we were talking about the creatatus. That we, yep. When it comes to being so named, when I go out in public, right, I present myself as best I can as a they, them, whatever I think that means. But when I'm at the grocery store, I don't have any power over other people to perceive me as I would like to be perceived. They see a man walking around. And there's nothing that I can do about that, their attitude or their truth, the truth that they take away from me that is true for them, right? That is a truth. It's not an incorrect truth. It's not an invalid truth. It's not a not real truth. It is true. It is true for them. It's true in a very real and very important way to them, in a way that I can't influence. I don't get to not be white. I don't get to curate entirely how I am perceived by the world. The world is going to see me and make judgments about me. And I can't change those. I can negotiate those to some extent, but I can't change those. I had a visceral reaction to that. Yeah. Maybe I should have given a content warning about that. Sorry, Jane. But I mean, yeah, it's gross and it's devastating and it's corrupting. That such just I couldn't even express just how twisted, because it's a game, right? It's a game, but it's not. It's not. Oh, I forgot about the game thing. Yep. But a visceral reaction is the right thing. And it's important too that, us who appear white, whether we want to be white or not, for those of us who are categorically in that group of whiteness, whether we want it or not, it doesn't do us any good to feel guilty about that past. You should have a visceral reaction, right? I think that's appropriate. That means that you're human. It means that you still feel. It means that you have good instincts, good morals, good values. That you have a visceral reaction is the right response. But we shouldn't be hard on ourselves. We shouldn't feel guilty. I didn't play that game, and I didn't make any other children play that game. I'm not directly responsible for that. There is some degree to which I have benefited from a system of white supremacy, and I should work to undo that privilege and to dismantle the system. But that doesn't require my guilt. That doesn't require me to feel bad about the past. It only requires that I'm honest about the past and serious about making changes about the future, right? I don't want to make too big of a deal about it, but this is the white fragility, white guilt problem that Robin DiAngelo talks about, that I think is a real important aspect of being white. Is that we recognize that there's only so much that we can do. We can't go back and change the past. We can't make it not have happened. And feeling guilty about the fact that it has happened doesn't do anybody any good. Guilt is, and this might help with the explanation too. Guilt is a selfish emotion. Guilt is about the self. If you have done harm in the world and you're sorry for that, then you should apologize and do something to make that better. That doesn't have anything to do with your guilt. If you feel guilty about having done something bad, it's because you refuse to do the things that you're supposed to do to hold yourself accountable and to change as a person. That's why you feel guilty. Right? That's where guilt comes from, is your selfish self-centeredness about the situation, right? You've done something bad in the world, or you've done harm to others. And instead of caring about the harm that you've done, you're turning your attention to yourself, and you're feeling guilty about the thing rather than facing it and doing something about it, right? No, I'm not, I don't think anybody was feeling that way. I thought that there was a good opportunity there to clarify an important note there about whiteness, right? Back. Oh no, it's that kind of lost reference. We have to go back, Kate. Man, I hated Jack Shephard so much. What a jerk. That's one of my favorite things about Lost as a show, is that the first few episodes, you really start to like Jack. He's one of the most likable characters in the first few episodes. And he just proves to be a more giant piece of shit. A more giant piece of shit as the show goes on. He just gets more and more and more him. We have to go back, Kate. And I'm going to destroy my life until you agree with me in ways that make you viscerally upset. Right. Anyways. Good show overall. I hated the way the Lost ended. It was a good show until the final season. I think that the last season was absolutely terrible. Everything about it, actually. I don't like any of the episodes. Any of the episodes in the final season of Lost. None of them. They're all bad episodes. But I think that has to do with the fact that Lost was trying really hard to give the audience what the audience was asking for. And I don't know if any of you were following along with Lost as Lost was coming out. It was kind of an interactive show. Yeah, that's what happened. The writers went on strike. There was a writer's strike, and so whoever was left, they just started taking whatever suggestions were given to them by the fans and doing that. And for anyone that has made a product for the public, you would probably know that the public does not know what it wants. And what it asks for is always not what it wants. Funny thing about the public is you need to find a way to give the public what they want, and you tell them this is what they want, and that's a more effective way to make your art or make your literature or to make your point is to kind of cram it down their throat. If you give the people what they want, what you end up with is garbage. Unless the public is asking for communism, of course, right, of course. But in that case, we don't have to ask for it. We could just take it. If the public wants communism, we can just seize the means of production. Then we don't have to wait for anybody's permission. But yeah, but still a good point nonetheless, Matt. Okay. Okay, and I think we've done a pretty good job so far. Oh yeah, back to narrative. Back to the narrative. So, there's a few ways that we can think about narrative that I think would be very helpful. And one has already been brought up in chat. I think I said the thing, but it was based on something somebody brought up in chat, where they said history started in 1976 or 1776. Right, the Heritage Foundation is a deliberate effort to establish a narrative, a competing narrative that muddies the water of what is real about history. That's the whole goal. And it's a very simple goal, and everything that the Heritage Foundation does is for that goal. Right? They're not trying to, rather than trying to do anything positive, they're not trying to change the world in a positive way. They're trying to dismantle that which already exists in the world. That is a coherent idea about what has happened in our nation's history. Right, and the Heritage Foundation is going about the establishment of a narrative, and it's the same kind of tactic that we saw from the Daughters of Confederacy. For those of you who are not familiar with the Daughters of Confederacy, Google it. That's something that you need to know about. The history of the Daughters of Confederacy is evil and dastardly, and it is explicitly about the goal of rewriting history entirely. And they did so very successfully. That's why you have a whole bunch of people who keep saying things like, well, you can't tear down that statue because of my heritage. That statue doesn't have anything to do with culture or history or heritage at all. It was erected 60 years ago. long after the Civil War, long after it was created by the Daughters of Confederacy, paid for and bankrolled by the Daughters of Confederacy to make up a completely mythological history about what happened during the Civil War. To completely rewrite history, to give us a new, different narrative, a competing narrative. Well, and there's that. There's that. Matt, I think that I'm trying to remember the content creator. There's a black content creator that talked about having to walk past a Confederate statue on their way to work at a bank every day, and how the architecture of the bank and the architecture around the park and the architecture of the statue, everything was racist, everything was oppressive, and it was an everyday reminder, right? So that's absolutely true. That those statues and that history and that narrative is established in part to terrorize, actually. It's a terror campaign that is meant to make those people feel like they don't have a place in culture and society, that they can't have a say in establishing the truth. So remember from Wednesday's stream when I was talking about the idea of reality enforcement? Little white me on my way to school, passing the police officer that helps keep me safe and helps me cross the road every day on my way to school. I go to school, and with my cohort, I am building a narrative about our shared experience through time. We do this with our classes, with our cohorts, with whoever it is that we are growing up with. We are establishing truths about our place in the world. And when it comes to establishing those truths, I, little kid me, was reality enforcing the idea that cops are always good, and that we should support the cops, and we should pay money to the cops, and we should always trust the police, despite the fact that those other kids 2 miles down the road from me are being brutalized and their neighborhoods are being terrorized by those same police in my town, in my time and place. And in my cohort, those people's experience don't get the feature that my experiences do, because my experiences meet the typification, right? They're typical of a white American kid. And so I am reality enforcing that cops are good. And I'm not doing it on purpose. I'm not doing it nefariously. I'm not trying to be racist or to uphold a system of white supremacy. I've been conditioned to believe that cops are good. I'm doing good by promoting good things in culture and society. That's what I think. Not that I'm perpetuating a system of white supremacy, which is the truth, which is actually the reality of what little kid me was doing. But by supporting the police and being into that kind of stuff. Oppressors tend to control narratives. It's more important to control the narrative than it is to control an actual population physically. And that's Machiavelli, right? That's an old tactic that goes back to Machiavelli, right? That you don't have to brutalize your population to keep them in control. You just need some kind of ideology which does that itself. Get them into Christianity. Then they'll oppress themselves. That they'll believe that they're not worthy, valuable people inherently, that they have to rely on grace in order for them to be anything, to have any substance, to have any meaning. They have to appeal to some other thing, and you make them identify with that as their own identity, that they are nothing, that they are groveling, that they are unworthy. You give them a religion that tells them that they can't. And then you don't have to do anything. You don't have to abuse them. You don't have to brutalize them. You don't have to do anything to keep them in line. They'll do that themselves. It was a Union Jack, yeah. And the Union Jack, not the Confederate flag. Just the American Nazi flag, right? They put dare in schools so you'd rat on your family and community. Yup. That's exactly why the DARE program was invented, so that you can indoctrinate those kids, to give those kids a sense of right and wrong, and tell them it's their responsibility to do the right thing. And then they'll out their parents. They'll turn them in. And I've heard of multiple cases where that has actually happened. Yeah, and they don't care. They knew the whole time that it would increase drug use. They don't care about those consequences. That actually works in their favor. That gives them more victims. Right? This is actually it's two birds with one stone. Right? You turn a greater percentage of your population into zombies who are not critical about the world and are more worried about their next high than they are about making the world a better place. If you can just appeal to escapism at any time, you don't have to worry about making the world a better place so much, right? So it's two birds with one stone, right? Not only are you facilitating the pipeline to prison, which they want, but you're also making a larger percentage of the population apathetic. Chemically induced, chemically induced apathy, right? It's nothing but good for them. If more people are taking drugs or abusing substances illicitly, we'll say, if more people are abusing substances illicitly, that's better for the people in power and control. That's fewer people they have to worry about, right? Because it's the rest of us that have to worry about people who go too far along those lines, where they can't take care of themselves, or they become a danger to themselves or their friends and family, right? It's up to us to figure out what to do about those people who have gone too far and now need help from the rest of us. Nobody up here gives a shit about those people. Nobody in control is concerned about the well-being of any of the people who are addicted to any of the chemically addictive substances that they are pumping into the culture and society. Don't ask, don't tell policies of the military also? Yeah, exactly. It's all mechanisms of control, where you get you don't have to enforce, you don't have to do any enforcement. So I remember when Don't Ask, Don't Tell first came out, that there was a lot of liberal celebration. The libs were happy with the Don't Ask, Don't Tell. It means that anybody can be gay in the military and no one's going to care about it, right? That's what it means, right? No, it means that we have a whole system of no accountability. We have a whole system of turning a blind eye to whatever's going on. So if you tell your comrades that you shouldn't be surprised that they are going to abuse you, and that they are going to do harm for you and put you in harm's way over and over and over again, right? And because of the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy, you can't go to your superior and tell your superior that you're getting abused. You're not allowed to tell Don't Ask, Don't Tell, right? You're not allowed to tell your superior that you are gay or that you are trans. You know, you're not allowed to. They're not allowed to ask, and you're not allowed to tell. So you know, it insulated the bullies. It protected the or it created a vacuum of space in which reality enforcement could be done by people who would not be held accountable. Right? If it was done by the military leadership, then there's somebody who can be held accountable. But if it's a widespread systemic problem that all of these people are doing it, we're just, you know, oh well, right? That's exactly what they want. Yeah, the libs thought it was a perfect solution because they don't care. They don't care about. First off, libs don't listen to black people or to marginalized people, to their experiences of the world, to know what kind of things work and don't work. That's the first problem that liberals have, is they don't listen to marginalized communities about their needs and about their harms and about what is going to make their lives better. Libs are in the business of telling them what's good for them. We're gonna come into your neighborhoods and we're gonna do this and we're gonna, yeah, looking at you, new scum, right? Yeah. I mean, libs love him, despite the fact that he is useless. Worse than useless, because it gives people the catharsis. It gives people the feeling that somebody's doing something. It gives people the idea that, well, at least somebody's speaking out. At least somebody's, you know, holding those people accountable. At least they're wagging their finger over there. You know, we need more finger waggers. You know, but that's exactly right. And Newscomb is a perfect example, Jane. Yeah, false sense of security. But it's Cabinet's MAGA with the rainbow flag. Yeah, well, and we are over it. I think that is absolutely true. Well, we are over it. We are over it on the left. The same people who months ago lost all faith in Bernie Sanders, right? We are paying attention. And the first time that Bernie Sanders was like, well, I mean, I don't know, Israel has a right to defend itself. Fuck you. What do you mean? No, they don't. States don't have the right to exist. Oh, there we go. States don't have the right to exist. People do. Palestinians have a right to exist. Jewish people have a right to exist. And boy, I wish nations would care about protecting those things. If we had states who were dedicating their energy and effort to, I don't know, protecting Jewish people, maybe we wouldn't need a conversation about where we're going to put the Jews, because they should be able to live anywhere in any country and just be free. The problem is America and Britain are too full of anti-Semitic, racist, bigoted people who think that they have the fascist right to tell other people what they can and cannot do. Libs want to wallow in their own farts. They'll never win another election. I mean, I'm scared about the state of electoral politics going forward. I am very, very concerned about what is going to be real life for us going forward. I mean, not that, again, I've talked about this before. I have no faith in electoral politics. Zero faith that electoral politics can stop our descent into fascism. I don't think electoralism is the vehicle by which we can make any kind of meaningful changes such that we can even slow down our descent into fascism. I think that electoralism is going to lead us down there anyway. I think that the way that our system is, fascism is inevitable unless we have class consciousness before then. It's revolution or fascism. Electoral politics is not in that mix at all. It doesn't matter. It's going to be revolution or fascism. And electoral politics is only gonna be fascism. Period. That's how I feel about it. But there was some slowdown for some time, right? There was some, maybe I'm just being optimistic. I actually, yeah, I think that our system was always inevitably going to lead us here, like Trump. Let's talk about. I believe that Trump was inevitable with our system. If it wasn't that pompous jackass, it would have been some other. Because that's the way the system is. That's the way the system works. When over and over again, you have nothing but a choice between the lesser of two evils, you are always voting for evil. In a system in which you elect the lesser of two evils, you are always voting for evil. And we should not be surprised when our world, when our government is evil, when for the last hundreds of years since the establishment of this nation, we have been selecting the lesser of evils. Categorically. Right? 1930s Germany, more like, yes. I mean, we are past that point. When it comes to comparing us to, well, the rise of the Third Reich, there's a lot of striking similarities, but I think that there might be more similarities with the rise of Mussolini in the brown shirts in Italy. I think that what we are experiencing now might be more like it's just a strange amalgamation of those two. Specifically those two. It's almost as though somebody took those two, slammed them together, and then just, here's the third part of the trilogy. It's just an amalgamation of the first two books slammed into its own book. I don't blame non-voters or third-party voters at all. Right. And I think that that's kind of fair. When I first became a professor, when I first started teaching, I was really of the mind that it was a good idea for me to push my students to participate in electoralism. And part of this was informed by the fact that college-educated people make better decisions. And college-educated people generally tend to skew to the left. It turns out that the more knowledge you have about history in the world, the more left you end up being. Generally. I mean, this isn't across the board, but it's a trend that is generally true. I would be careful to not give non-voters the impression that I was trying to make them feel bad, right? I was careful that I was trying to push people to vote, trying to encourage it, talking about it, and trying to get people excited about voting. But I was also, I would save that extra space and have a few statements to say every class about it, where I'm like, well, you know, if you're undecided, or if you feel like you don't have enough information, you shouldn't feel like you're just going to go just to tick the box, right? It's not patriotic. It's not patriotic to just show up to the poll and vote without knowing what you're voting for. That's the opposite, actually. It would be more responsible for you to abstain from voting when you are not knowledgeable, or when you don't know, or when you are unsure. So, but over the years, I've changed that message entirely. It's been, you know, it's shifted a little bit more to where it was like, well, you know, maybe go vote, maybe don't, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then now I just don't talk about it. Now I just don't even bring it up. Getting the kids out to the polls clearly doesn't matter. I think non-voters should have put in a protest vote to show them what they're missing. Well, and I think even if Mickey Mouse, so they've started to include no confidence votes, which I absolutely love. Now, I would prefer ranked voting. Let's be real. When it came down to it, I want ranked choice voting. If we had ranked choice voting, the lesser of two evils problem actually goes away entirely. That goes away. We have some other problems that we would still need to work out, like dark money in politics, and in how campaigns are run. That there are some other things that we would want to work out. But just establishing ranked choice voting would immediately change the landscape of electoral politics into something that could actually effectively change the country in a way that will benefit us. It wouldn't be immediate. It would take a long time for that to have an effect, but it would. But I think simply having that inclusion of no confidence, the last election that they had in Colorado, that's for both of the congressional representatives, I voted no confidence in any of the candidates. All of these candidates are trash. They're all bad. No, I don't believe in any of them. And I had the privilege, and this is something else too to keep in mind. I know that I'm in a blue state. I knew that the chances of those blue seats turning red was slim to none, right? I knew that I had the freedom and the privilege of being in a place where I could say, you know what, that Democrat's not for me. But I made that vote knowing that a Democrat was going to get elected anyway, understanding that that was going to be better for the material conditions of those people who live in the same state as me. And if there had been a greater chance that we would have lost the seat, I would have reconsidered how I was going to vote, right? So there's definitely that too. And that's why the no confidence, I don't think, is a very good choice. It's better than not having that. It's a better avenue, but again, it requires voters to have a bit of knowledge, a bit of savvy, a bit of understanding about the process, and to be in a safe place, right? That I wouldn't have to worry about that. The problem is representative democracy. Yes. Problem is representative democracy. Jane, with that comment, reality is libertarian socialist in a way. You're talking about actual, like, our relationship to each other and with each other, right? And not our relationship with the state and government. That reality is a libertarian socialism, right? I think that's what you mean. And yeah, and I completely agree with that. Or I more or less agree with that. I would use different language, but I would appeal to indigenous ways of describing the relationships that we have to each other and our interconnectedness. Or a good, this is something I haven't talked about on stream before. The word is called omulabi. And I'm going to have to look up the spelling. No, it's not prim. So this is a Moluabi. It's attributed to Yoruban. No, Akan. It's attributed to Akan ethics, though I believe Yoruban ethics has a very similar term. It's just a different word. And I'd have to look up the well, I could just look up the thing. I'll just look up the thing. So this is kind of a word which means personhood in a way. So think about in Western civilization, there is an assumption that you're a person, right? That's an assumption. You're a person. And because you're a person, you have all of the stuff that comes with personhood. You have human dignity. And because you have human dignity, you have rights. This is a Western conception. You're a person necessarily. You're born a person. You are a person. You get rights because you are a person. This conception, Omoluabi, is well. Let me say this. In Akan society, one is not assumed to have personhood in the way that we think about it. It's personhood in that one gets recognized by the culture and society in a way that culture and society believes that this person has human dignity and is deserving of human rights. That's something that has to be earned. It's something that you do with your activity and with your being, by your engagement with your community to build your Omoluabi. You establish your own participation. We haven't done the Aristotle idea of participation. Well, that's actually more Plato, but like Jane. So the way that you think of the archetype womanhood, this is something that in which you participate, right? It's not a definition. It's not a label or a limit placed on you. It is something, and it is something that you participate in with your being and your activity, right? You live a certain way toward that. And Omulabi is the same kind of idea, that with your interactions with your culture and society, with the people that are around you, you establish a selfness that others recognize because you are doing things in the culture and society, right? You are making your mark. You are doing something productive with yourself, with your own time and energy to benefit all the rest of us. And we can all see that. And while you are doing that, you are building up your participation in this thing that we all participate in together. I'm gonna find I'm gonna get some quotes because it's really helpful. What I mean by that is when I talk about this concept with my students, they've read a full article about Omulabi, and so they have all of the nitty-gritty details, and I don't have to fill in the details. I talk around the idea and about the idea and clarify the idea, but I don't have to really explain the nitty-gritty details, so I'm a little bit rusty on that. So I'm going to pull up the article and get some clips from this article. But I have to remember the name of the author, which means I have to stop talking. I could not remember the name of the author and say words at the same time. Boy, I need to clear up this folder. There's a lot of stuff in this folder. Yeah, that's the name I was looking. I forget that it's got the A. Yeah. We'll pull up, yeah. This is only the first 8 pages of the article. Away. I don't need an AI summary. Go away. Really? All right, anyways, moving on. Let me that. I don't want to use. Huh. It's a Windows capture that I want for out exist. I think that. Yeah, let's use PowerPoint. That's gonna mess it up later when I need to do that for class. Later when I need that same source for my students in class, that's gonna be a problem. But I'll figure that problem out at that time. That's a problem for Professor Me to deal with. So this is African. This is an African ethics. I need that now so that it. That should be fine. Now it's under all the things. Okay, good. So the thing that I'm looking for here is, yeah, so I'd mentioned that there was a different word used by Yoruba, the Yoruban people, and this is the word. Ubuntu means nearly the same thing as Omulabi. Not quite the same thing, but nearly. It's being used as by the author to illustrate the point that they're very same. That the two ideas are very much the same. Ubuntu is very difficult to render into Western language. It speaks to the very essence of being human. When you want to give high praise to someone, we say, "Yi u Ubuntu." He has or she has Ubuntu. This means that they are generous, hospitable, friendly, caring, and compassionate. They share what they have. Here's the really important part. It also means that my humanity is caught up, is inextricably bound up in theirs. We belong in a bundle of life. We say, person is a person through other people. I am human because I belong, I participate, and I share. So, it's not, we don't have to be primitive about it. This is the kind of relationship we have, right? So, and yeah, it's a way of life. Yes, it's a way of life. It's a way of living. It's kind of like an ideology, but it's an ideology only in the stories, only in the mythology, only in what they say out loud to their children when they're teaching their children what this thing is. Right? It's only abstracted in that way. It's a mode of being. So yes, it is. It's a way of life. It's a way of living. It's a way of not just seeing the world, not just thinking about the world. It's a way of engaging with the world in a way that is reciprocal, right? That you are the feedback that your actions produce in and through others. That's what your being is. Where you get meaning. And this is to push back against some of the Western Kantian ideas that sometimes I get trapped in and I get swept up in. So I use this language sometimes where I talk about a philosopher retreats into the citadel of their mind. And when one is in their own mind, abstracting about things, they are the god of their own universe, right? They can imagine themselves anything. They can imagine the substance of the world in these fantastical idealistic ways. They can reorganize them, reshape them, cram them together in any kind of combination that they want to. Abstraction is a lot of fun. But the part about this that Immanuel Kant runs away from in a lot of his writing about this is that whatever thing that you're imagining in your own mind, when you're the god of your own universe, when you've retreated to the citadel of your own mind, none of that has any meaning to anyone in the real world. None of that has any meaning. Anything that you think up here, that stays up here, has no meaning. Right? And Immanuel Kant is aware. I'm not trying to say that Immanuel Kant was completely unaware of this. In the works where he's talking about this, he has to reconcile this. That at some point the philosopher is going to starve if they don't come back to the real world, the world of the material world, where they can't just abstract ideas and be the god of their own universe, right? That we have to wake up to the reality that we live in a time and place. Immanuel Kant didn't phrase it that way. That language wasn't around. That's Heidegger. Phrase up here has no meaning, has no substance, has no tangibility, has no effect on the real world. Anything that stays up here is meaningless in the world. For us to have meaning, for us, this physical stuff, for the flesh and being and soul of this thing, for this thing to have meaning, I have to go out in the world and do things with people. And if I'm not doing that, I am not doing anything of any meaning. Right? We can think about Robinson Crusoe. That's what it was called. Castaway, the one where it's just the whole movie is him by himself on a deserted island. That's Castaway. Castaway. Do is just empty. It's masturbation. Anything that you do is purely masturbatory and doesn't have any effect on anybody else's anything, right? It doesn't have any meaning. For us to have any meaning, we have to do stuff in the world, in front of other people, with other people. That's it. That's an idea that gets divorced. So if we go back to Immanuel Kant's retreating to the citadel of the mind, this is completely compatible with John Stuart Mills's liberal ideology. It is completely compatible with this notion. So I'm going to pick on Henry David Thoreau. I'm gonna pick on Henry David Thoreau. I would like to note that I really like the author Henry David Thoreau. I like their works. I like most of what they've written. Big fan. But Walden is a joke of a story. It is completely, actually, utterly incoherent. It's the only part of the story that has any meaning and substance is when the main character in Walden gets married. That's the only time that the story has any real stuff, any real content, any real flesh, right? It's just an idea. It may as well have been Castaway or Robinson Crusoe. It may have well been the same book, because there are no. Again, I like Henry David Thoreau. I like Walden. It's a good book, but the reality of Walden is there's no takeaway. There's nothing meaningful about that story that you can take away, apply to your life, and then to reapply to meaningful existence in the world. There is no thing to be taken from Walden to make your life a better person as a person who is existing in the world. And I think that might be the point of the story, actually, that the rugged individualism that people get from the story of Walden, the idea of self-sufficiency, it's a joke. It's impossible. It's beyond utopia. Because when we talk about utopia, I believe that things that we, like communism, anarchism, those are utopian ideas that I believe are actually possible. Walden is not possible. Walden is fantasy. It's not real and it can't be. It's commentary. Right, that's okay. That's if we think of it as pure commentary on states of affairs, that kind of rescues the work a little bit. That it's a statement about states of affairs. Because it's commentary. It's not telling you what to do, actually, and it doesn't have a parable. There's no strong life lesson. There's not an overarching theme that you're supposed to take away. That's the point of the story. It's commentary, right? And part of the illustration of the fantasy is in Henry David Thoreau's real life, because he moved to a place right? I don't remember if it was actually called Walden or if it was called something else, but Henry David Thoreau moved to a place out in the middle of the woods all by himself so that he could live that kind of lifestyle, except that he couldn't, except that it's impossible. He was only able to live there because his sister or an aunt, it was some relative of his, came to his house every week. Literally sometimes 2 or 3 times a week to drop off supplies and to cook him food and to help him fix the fence and to help him patch the roof and to help him do repairs around the place, because some of that shit takes 2 people. Right? Henry David Thoreau could not live on his own. And most people in society can't. There are a few people. Welcome in, DJJ. It's good to see you. I hope you're doing well. There probably are a few outliers. Some people who could rough it on their own. They could take off and just disappear and live by themselves out in the middle of nowhere for the rest of their lives. Some people could do that. But that's a very small percentage of the rest of us, right? Yet we need society in order to function. In order to stay sane, right? In order to be healthy beings, we need others, right? In order for us to be human in the meaningful sense requires that we do so with humans. We are social animals. I wouldn't say necessarily, but nearly necessarily. There's some tricks with that and the necessity of it, but I live right next to Walden Pond. It's friggin' warm, not pleasant for swimming. That's interesting. Like real life. That's in somewhere in the New England area, right? You don't have to dox yourself, but I want to say that it's somewhere in the Northeast. I don't remember. It's been a while since I've thought about Walden, but there's another quote from this. I thought that I had it highlighted. But I'll probably share this. You're in the Discord, right, Jane? I'll share this article on Omo Lobby. Where does this go in the Discord? Oh, it's not far from Boston. Good luck finding me. Yeah, I live in that kind of place too. Ah, I gotcha. Jose Monkey as a geoguesser. Some geoguessers, it's just wild. How in the world can you look at a tree line and guess where you are based on the tree line? Like, what? How is that even a real thing? It is a real thing. People do that stuff. I like watching geoguessers too. One I used to watch all the time back in the day, but they don't seem to be streaming anymore. There is a place, Discord, for me to put stuff. Huh. No, there doesn't seem to be a place in the Discord for me to put. What stuff? So I'm going to make a new channel real fast. Well, maybe not real fast. I'm not that good with Discord. But I'm going to try. Yeah, I create a category first. The category is Books, articles, and academic work is going to be the category. Where is it? This is why I don't generally Discord, is because I don't know. He finds people based on their TikTok videos. Well, see, with the TikTok video, it's not everybody moves. I'm like, well, you can get a little bit of landscape. You can get some vista. Maybe you can get a panorama of, if somebody's walking around or somebody's. But I mean, some of them are just static. So I don't know. I created a new category. I don't understand why I don't see the category. But should I do text or forum? Oh. Okay. Okay. Getting there. Folder. This is the right folder. 5. Thing. And I'll put the full article too. Yeah. That way you've got the full article. I just have my students read the first 8 pages. Dane, if you're interested in this philosophy and learning more about this philosophy, really the first 8 pages is going to give you a very good rundown, a very good understanding of what the idea is about and how one would go about living their life in this kind of way. And like I said, it does a really good job, I think, of talking about the nitty-gritty details and I haven't posted. It wants me to put words here. When I'm mumbling to myself, how is that audio? Is that audio still really terrible when I'm mumbling to myself? It's probably. I need to be out of the habit of mumbling and into the habit of speaking more articulately and enunciating. Why won't you let me post? Oh, that's why. There we go. Really weird. I could have sworn that I already had. Oh no. Well, that's reading recommendations. Things. Oh, there's new stuff here. I didn't know that there was new stuff. When was this stuff added? Yeah, that was like 2 months ago. Hey. And this is from last month, and I never answered it. Oh my goodness. I am so sorry, everybody in the Discord. I don't know why I'm not getting notifications for my own channel. I am so sorry, everybody in my Discord who has been saying stuff and has been posting stuff and has been waiting for me to respond. I am so sorry. All kinds of stuff here that I'm waiting for me to look at. A whole bunch of TikToks that Matt has thrown in here. I got the one. I remember the one that I got about Madeline Pendleton. Oh, I remember this. Yeah, this is Crutches and Spice. They are awesome. They are awesome. Thank you, everybody, for putting stuff in the Discord, and I'm sorry for not getting around to seeing it. I didn't know that there was stuff here. Imani Baron is the best. Oh, yeah. So, I'll need to spend some time, but yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll get there eventually. Well, this is the week, not this week. This week's almost over. But this coming week is the week where I'll have some time. Not a lot. I'm gonna have a lot of time because it's the first week I've had in weeks that I'm gonna have time. So I've got lots of stuff, lots of backlog stuff to do. But all my school stuff is done. Everything is set up for both of the school semesters that are about to start. One starts on the 20th, and the other starts on September 5th. Both of those classes are ready to go. I have another class that's starting on September 17th, and then another class that starts after that on... Should be right there. Not good. Oh, there. No. There it is. Ah, okay. I haven't color coded my my calendar yet, which is another thing that I'll be doing next week. Is when you teach 4 different classes, 3 of which are at one university and 1 of which is at another university, it's helpful if you've got all of those things color coded so that you can just look at your calendar and know what you're looking for instead of having to go through item by item and event by event to make sure that each one of them is what it is. So I haven't color coded my calendar yet. Oh, that one begins on October 17th, so that one's not near. Really, I've got lots of weeks for that one. 8 weeks, and 10 weeks. To there. Why was I talking about this? Oh yeah, so next week is going to be kind of an easy week for me. The first week in a long time that I haven't had just mounds and mounds and mounds of stuff to do all the time that are time sensitive. So all of that stuff is done. This upcoming week is going to be a little bit more chill for me. Then I'm going to go to Shangri-La. It wasn't going to be an all-week thing. It's a 4-day festival, but it's turning out to be an all-week thing. I think that the plan is going to be as I'll leave Saturday the 23rd, and I'll just be gone. I'll be in Minnesota until the following until two Tuesdays after that. Not the next Tuesday, but the following Tuesday. So that's going to be fun. And then then when I get back from Shangri-La, all my classes will have begun. So, but fall semesters are actually kind of easiest. It's really weird, in that, this is supposed to be closed anyway. Check that out later. The times where the things are hardest for the students, things are easiest for me. Right? I think I talked about this before. So with the fall semester, I do a lot of work up front. When the students are just getting into the course and there's not a lot of stuff that they need to worry about, I am stressing out. I am doing a lot of work. I am touching base with them constantly. I'm making comments on their discussion board posts. I'm making comments on all of their assignments. I'm giving them all as much feedback as I possibly can, as many detailed notes as I possibly can about everything. I'm just bombarding my students with as much, and it just nearly overwhelming them, I imagine. In the beginning of the semester, the first 2 weeks especially, I'm just like go constantly. Week 3 is when they start to have to worry about their essay and their other assignments, and their workload starts to intensify, and that's when I can start to breathe a little bit. Is when they're doing the more hard work, and they start to work towards their midterm. And when they get to their midterm, that's the peak of their stress in my class. When they're at the peak of their stress and they're taking their midterm, that week is cake for me. It is my favorite part of the semester, the easiest time of the semester for me, because the students are all busy. They're all busy. They're all running the directions they're supposed to run. They're doing the things they're supposed to do. They're working on the assignments they're supposed to be working on. They've got stuff to do. They're busy. They aren't reaching out to me and asking me a bunch of asinine questions that I have already explained in several places throughout the course. I did that the first 2 weeks. I took care of all of those problems, all of those questions, all of those concerns, all of those things that the student doesn't know about, all the things the student doesn't know to do. I've told them about those, and I've told them where to go and where to find the resources, and so they're stressing out about their midterm. I'm laying back, relaxed. Midterm week is my favorite time of the semester. I don't have anything to do. But then as soon as the midterm ends, I go back into, okay, now that we've covered all of those important things that we've tested on, now I'm going to start throwing a bunch of monkey wrenches into the ways that you are understanding these things, into the ways that you're thinking about them, so that you can see the moral complications, right? I gave you the principles. We walked through a few simple examples. We did a few, thought experiments. Now we're going to get into the complicated stuff. Now that the midterm's over, it's going to get, we're going to get into it. And that's just exciting for me. And it doesn't even feel like work, actually. But then it is very time consuming. I spend a lot of time, the 2 or 3 weeks right after the midterm, getting them ready for the final. And then after those 2 weeks after the midterm, the work for me starts to slack off again, because they're doing their application essay, and they're finalizing their essay and doing all of that stuff. I've already read the rough draft for most of my students, so when they submit their final essay, I give it a final read. It takes me 15 minutes, grades on it, cool. And again, as their semester gets more difficult and more intense and more work intensive as it builds up towards the final. It gets easier and easier and easier for me week by week, until, in fact, the last 2 weeks of the semester, I'm usually not doing work for that class. I'm doing work for the next class that hasn't started yet, so that when the semester ends, I can actually enjoy a break. I usually only get, 7 or 9 days in between semesters, and I would like to spend that time not stressing out about the beginning of the semester. How long are the essays typically? Between 2.5 and 4 pages is what I ask the students for. I sometimes take off points if a student's essay is below 2.5 points, but usually not. If I take off points for length, it's because there are other concerns and other reasons there that the product that the student has given me is garbage. And so it's just, adding a few more points to the pile of already taken off points. But it's rare that I do that either. To take off points at all. And I certainly don't take off points for people that write essays over 4 pages. But I discourage it. It's a conversation that I have. There's an introduction video, so any of my classes that I don't teach live sessions, I have a video where I explain that, where I talk about it's between 2.5, 4 pages. I'm not going to take off points if you go a little bit over. If you're going to write a 10-page paper, you need to email me and let me know. If you're going to write a 10-page paper, that's probably fine. But if you're going to, you need to warn me in advance. You need to let me know, because that's going to take me a lot longer to grade than a 4-page paper. A lot. It's wild how much more work it is. Even the difference between 4 and 6 pages is it usually ends up being a lot more work for me. Anyway, but the idea is I don't want to be overwhelmed. I don't mind. I've had students turn in 16, 18 pages on their essays before. And there's one student in particular. It was actually, that student their essay was 14 pages, 15 with the works cited page. Yes, include citations. And the student had reached out to me, when they went to submit their rough draft. They were like, I'm so sorry. I have 20 pages. I have 20 pages of rough draft. I know that it's way too much, but I don't know what to get rid of. And so I just told the student, send all 20 to me. I'll read them. I'll see what we can get rid of. And after I read the student's rough draft, I decided that the student should not cut out any of the topics, should not cut out any of the research, should not cut out any of the ideas or any of the arguments. There was a lot of those things that could have been done more efficiently, more concisely, more organized, right? Which is why the paper ended up much smaller than the 20 pages that they sent to me initially. But it was good content. It was really good work that was really meaningful, and it was a student who was exceptionally talented. And I thought that their work would stand a chance of being accepted by an undergraduate journal, for example, or, could be that kind of good. So I didn't want to dissuade them from making a big, full project, especially if they had already put together 20 pages by the midterm of the semester. That's whittling that down is definitely hard work, but not as much work as it is to amass 20 pages, right? But yeah, usually my essays are their essays are pretty succinct. And I would say that the last few years, especially, almost all of the students turn in essays that are under 3 pages. So in between 2 and 3 pages is really about what I usually get. I still get the odd 7, 10 pages, 10-page paper, but not as often as I used to. Oh yeah, yeah, me too. I love to write. I'm a big fan of, yes, for one of my colleges, the one that I have three classes, and I might get a 4th semester for that, a 4th course for that school. But that college is MLA. It's a 200 level course, and that's kind of typical for colleges to expect MLA at a 200 level college level. When you get beyond 200, usually it's APA. And with the other university in New Hampshire, that university uses APA pretty much across the board. So I might have students who use some other style other than APA, but those students won't be using MLA. They would be using Chicagoan style or whatever. Yeah, it is New Hampshire University. Well, I mean, I don't live there. I live in Colorado. And it will only dox myself so much anyway, because SNHU is a huge university. So big. It is so much bigger than my other college. My other college is, it's a big accredited university. It's got all the bells and whistles that a university is supposed to have. It's just, it's intimate, we shall say. SNHU is massive, a huge college. Well, I've talked about this before. The course that I teach, I am one of, I think, 26 or 28 professors that teach that course specifically. And not just in philosophy, right? That course. That one course that I teach. No, it's not Ivy League. SNHU is not. Neither of mine are Ivy League. It's hard. Yeah, it's far from. It's hard to get into teaching Ivy League school. It's even harder than to get accepted as a student into Ivy League school. You have to basically be famous to get accepted at an Ivy League school. You need to have published so much in your field that your name is a recognized name in the field in which you are. Commuter school? Yeah. Yeah, and it's big on online classes. It's well, and when I talk about how massive the program is, it's international. We are I regularly get students from around the world. Other people who are living in other parts of the world. In fact, I would say that probably less than half of my students in a given course are in New Hampshire. That it's mostly online, and most of the instructors are online too. Well, I couldn't confidently say most. I haven't looked into the actual demographics of the staff of the faculty body, but but my general impression from what I know and what I've looked up so far about the college, its online presence is much larger than any of its brick and mortar presence, because it has multiple locations too. And that's another thing with Southern New Hampshire University. They have multiple campuses, and I'm online anyway, so yeah. Oh, you go by the campus a lot? Well, yeah, if you're in, well, yeah, you must travel, because it's not that close to, you said Boston? I guess no, I guess it is kind of close to Boston, now that I think about it. My geography's terrible. I think that I've admitted this on stream before, that I'm terrible with geography. But it's a good college. And I mean that good. Like it's a good college. I love working for the college that I do, that's in Virginia. My Virginia college is amazing. I love that university. But it's smaller, it's more intimate. It's a bunch of people who really care. It's you know, it's a hard thing to describe when it comes to educators, people like me who do this job. There are generally two kinds of educators I found. There are two large categories. There's another smaller category here, but there are two main large categories. There's a category of people who want to teach, who want to change people's lives, who want to be a beacon for students who want to do the work. And they are going to do it no matter what they paid, no matter how hard the job is, no matter how few resources, these people are going to do the job. You've also got a group of people that I'm not sure of their motivation, actually. But when you see them as educators doing their job, it seems like they're doing the bare minimum. Like they're just showing up, like they're just doing the job, they're just getting by. And so that when it comes to educators in general, you've got two big camps. You've got the people who will literally rip the heart out of their own chest to help a student, right? That I said literally, obviously not literally, but people who feel that way, right? Feel like they care so much, and then people who kind of don't seem to care about the job at all, right? They're just doing the job and they don't care about the, like a sales clerk who's just ringing you up at the grocery store. They don't care about your grocery purchases. They don't care about you. They don't care about the grocery store. Right. So there's those, there's the smaller group that I alluded to. That's the people who got into education so they can pass on the punishments that they received when they were in school to other school children. So there's a small group of educators, and we've got these big groups here. People who care a lot, people who care a little, or not at all. These people care, but what these people care about are maintaining the systems of torture that they had to endure, for the sake of it, right? That's it. There's actual passion, and then there's I just work here. And so the college that I work for in Virginia just by and large, everybody on the college campus, both of the campuses, they've got 2 locations. The staff, the leadership, especially the way that the school is organized is it's one of those that it has like the faculty senate, and it has the faculty body rules the university. It's not a top down, these people make all the rules and tell everybody below what to do, and then those people go about doing it. It's the people at the very, very top spend all of their time in meetings and boardrooms with all of the other faculty and staff to make sure that what they're doing up here is what everybody else here wants. And all of the decisions that are made throughout the college are made here. And when it comes to what we're going to do, you have usually a dozen people who are advocating specifically for the students. What does this mean for their education? Whatever policy that it is that we're talking about, what does this mean for the students? What is the outcome? What am I going to have to do to help them, right? That's what it's about. And so I love working with people who are passionate and who care and are really good at their job. It's just a bunch of amazing people who are just thrilled for the opportunity to educate. And I don't know if there is the same kind of energy on the SNHU campus, because I've never been, but the interactions that I've had and the way that the hierarchy is set up for how the decisions are made throughout the college, it's very top down. It's very impersonal. And I get it. If you have such a massive university, it's hard to maintain a close, intimate relationship with all of your staff, but it's just not the same vibe. You know what I mean? It's not the same vibe. Some good go-karts and ice cream. That's pretty awesome. They have their own ice cream flavors? Wow, Chucksters does? That's cool. That's good. It's funny. I might bring that up in one of my discussion posts and see if anybody has been to Chucksters or if they've got something to say about Chucksters. That's kind of funny. Oh no, got kicked off of the go-karts last time. What were you doing to get kicked off of the go-karts? Usually tracks are pretty, well, I don't know. I've only been to a few tracks. And most of the tracks that I went to, that I've been to, I went when I was a teenager. So I was in a different mindset anyway. I'm trying to remember the last time I went go-karting. I would have been in my 20s. Wow, maybe. I might have been in my early 30s. The last time that I went go-karting. It would have been with my wife, ex-wife now. I want to say that her and I, no, because her and I went to a go-kart place specifically to go-kart, and the track was shut down that day, and we had to play mini golf instead. I mean, had to. I mean, mini golf is still fun, but it's not go-karts. And that's why we came. We went there specifically to go-kart, and we couldn't go-kart now that I remember. So I can't remember if I didn't go-kart then. When was the last time I go-karted? I probably was a teenager. The last time the kids tried to pit maneuver me, so I was sending them into the wall. That's awesome. Giving them a little taste of their own medicine. Yeah, that's I love mini golf. Mini golf used to be one of our favorite things to do. Actually, I've been to a bunch of different mini golf courses. I'm a fan of mini golf. I'm not good. Don't get me wrong. Before you go getting any ideas, I'm not good at mini golf. It's just fun. It's a good fun. It's good fun, especially with a group. The larger the group, I think, the more fun mini golf becomes. It's great with one or two people, even, right? It's a game that you can go and play by yourself, and it's one of the it's one of those things that you can do by yourself that doesn't look awkward either, right? It's but it's a good date activity, and it's a good group activity. Here, Concord has the world's longest mini golf hole. Wow, the world's longest? That's kind of a claim. That's quite the claim there, world's longest. I might have to go check that out. I clean up a mini golf. I'm consistently below par. Wow. That's pretty impressive. That's it's down a hill. I mean, that would help too. Wow, part 2. Huh. That's cool. I'm gonna have to check that out. I'm gonna have to make a trip out there. And that's something I'm gonna start doing. I'm almost there. By almost, I mean like a year away. But this is something I've been talking about for a long time, is the ability to go on the road and go places, to just travel some. It's expensive. You can't just up and go unless you've got the money, and I generally don't have the money. But I'm working on getting my van campable, so it'll be the kind of thing that I can live in for weeks at a time, right? And it won't be uncomfortable for me to live in the van for weeks at a time. New Hampshire is beautiful, especially the White Mountains National Forest. Okay, right. And I've definitely heard a lot about that. The White Mountain National Forest. And if I come out that way, I'll hit you up, Matt. I'll let you know. We'll meet up and play some golf. That would be that would be a great time, huh? You can mop the floor with me in mini golf. It'll be great fun. Spots on the top of a mountain, you can park that van. Oh, that's awesome. I do like that. Places that I can park and camp. There's a few places around here that allow you to camp in or drive to camp. There's that'll be doxing myself too much, but there is a national park nearby that has that kind of option that's absolutely beautiful, that I've been to a few times, but I haven't had the chance to camp out. And I've heard that that's the thing, that because it's out in the middle of nowhere and it's really high up. It's one of those kinds of places, high elevation, and there's no cities or towns nearby the park. So when you're camping out there, there is no light. There is no light pollution. And for most of you, you have no idea what that means or what that would actually look like. If you live within 60 miles of a town of more than 10,000 people, you have no idea what no light pollution looks like. And I tell you, it's a sight to see. To be in a place that has no light pollution, oh, You have never seen the sky. You have never seen the night sky. Oh yeah, the Milky Way isn't a band for me. The Milky Way takes up a third of the sky. You can see, it is just so magnificent to see the billions and trillions of just, oh, the light. Oh, it is indescribably beautiful. It is if you have it, it is unbelievably pretty. Only seen it in the middle of the ocean. Yeah, but that's a good that's the way to see it, Matt. That's a good example of zero light pollution. You have to be away from everything. Miles and miles and miles and miles away from any light source. And it is just, oh man. Kankamungus Highway crosses the whole state in the park, winds up and down every mountain on the way. Nice. And can camp free, 40 foot off the road. And that's another thing here. Most of the places in Colorado, I'd say most, there are some free camping places, some free camping parts, but most of them require you to pay. But, well, I mean, maybe most, but now that I think about it, there are enough free to camp places in Colorado that you can drive through or across Colorado and get away with camping for free along the way. You would just have to plan it. You would have to look for the free places and drive from free place to free place to make it work here. Scenic view parking every like mile. Yeah, there's in a lot of the so the how to describe this. The area that I'm in is historically rich. So there's the big national park that's kind of close to me. I mean, I guess it's not doxing me. It's really not that close. It's almost as far a drive for me to get to that national park as it is for me to get to Del Norte, where Rhythms on the Rio was. So I'm really not doxing myself, but so I guess I could say it's the Great Sand Dune. I'm near the Great Sand Dune, here in the San Luis Valley. But the whole valley is rich with historical content. So it depends on the road you're on, but some of our roads are that way too, where you drive a mile and there's a historical marker. You drive a mile, there's a historical marker. You drive a mile, there's a historical marker. And for every one of the markers, they've got a little pull off, and then there's a little park. A lot of them have little park benches, and so there's a lot of that stuff. Go there to watch the trees turn, and it's absolutely breathtaking. Yeah. That's one of my favorite things to do too. There's a few times of year here that you can, if you make the same drive every day, because I did this. I was working in New Mexico, and I was working all over the place. I was doing satellite installation, so I wasn't working for a place at a place. I was working all over the place, but it was all over New Mexico, and there's to get from my valley into New Mexico, I have to drive through this pass, and the pass is littered with just miles and miles of rolling hills, and it's those scenes where you've got the big hill and this big hill over here, and there's a million little hills in between, and they're all covered in trees. And in the autumn, it is just every day. Every day is a completely new work of art. It's a new scene. It's a new array of colors. Every day it just gets prettier and prettier and prettier, and until all of the leaves are gone. Well, not all of the leaves, but most of the leaves. It's the only time of year there's traffic on the road. That's like when I lived in Williamsburg. There's Colonial Parkway. If any of you ever find yourselves in Virginia and you're near Williamsburg, I highly recommend just drive down Colonial Parkway. It is one of the most beautiful scenic drives that I've ever seen in the entire United States. It's A1A quality, but without the A1A hype. And it you can also see the trees. Autumn there, it gets real busy. There's almost no traffic on the Colonial Expressway most of the time. But during the fall, it gets real busy. And people hike it. People ride their bikes on the parkway. There's camping spots up and down the parkway. So it's a breathtaking place too. Man, it's I keep seeing Jane ask the question, like seeing the Milky Way, and it makes me I just keep thinking of how pretty it is. I've taken pictures, and pictures just don't do it justice. It's weird. Well, and it's a lot of the scenery around here where I am is like that anyway. Because the elevation, you can see farther. This has to do with like the curvature of the earth and how close you are to the curvature of the earth. Where my elevation, I'm 7,200 feet. So we're high up there. And that's my base level. There's mountains all around me that I can go up even higher into. But because the elevation is so high where we are, you can see further. And when you can see mountains, you can see the mountains, and you can make out trees on the mountain, and you know that mountain is like 200 miles away. That is mind-blowing, that you can see that far with the clarity. Well, it depends on the fires. So we sometimes have wildfires around southern Colorado, and sometimes they're in northern New Mexico. And so if there's lots of wildfires, then visibility is pretty poor. If it's really windy, then it picks up a lot of dust, and there's lots of dust in the air, and you can't see as far. Or you can't realize how far you can see because you're just seeing the dust. But on really clear days, really calm and clear days, you can just see for miles and miles and miles, and it's just wild. It's usually not snowy here anymore. It used to be the case that this valley was constantly covered in snow, and that it would the snow would abate for 2 or 3 months throughout the year. So you would get a little bit of opportunity to grow, right? The growing season here was really small, and it still is pretty small. But the climate here where I am has shifted an awful lot over the last 20 years, and so now we get less snow. We usually get snows that begin in October or November, but those usually don't stick. It's usually December or later, actually, that we get snow that really sticks, and then it doesn't get snowy and stay snowy until January. It'll be snowy all of January usually, and most of February. There'll be snow on the ground all day, every day, for most of those months. And this last winter was especially mild. It was the mildest winter I've seen here in the few years that I've been here. but other people that have lived in this valley for 20 plus years say that it's the mildest winter that they've ever seen here either. So, but it's not bad for us. It's one of those interesting things when it comes to climate change. Climate change will have devastating effects for almost everyone. It will not have devastating effects for here. Where I am, climate change is just going to make where I live more and more comfortable. Actually, climate change is just going to make it easier for me to grow food here. So, you know, there's also the unpredictability. That's the thing that we're dealing with now is we have days that are way hotter, like by 20 degrees hotter than this same day last year. And then the next week, we'll have days that are 20% cooler than this same day last year. And our fluctuations are just going really off the wall. But the fluctuations here where I am, again, the fluctuations are only a few days, right? There was the massive cold snap storm that came through the United States and froze half of the United States last year. I don't know if you guys all remember that, but it was devastating storms. Just wiped out the entire East Coast, right? Or no, it was the West Coast, but the extreme winter weather didn't hit us at all. We got a little bit of rain. It didn't even snow here. It was just a regular day. It wasn't even especially cold. It was just a regular cold winter day. Yeah, we get more microburst, and this we are getting but something else, Matt, with the microburst, this valley has a wild history of wild extreme microbursts anyway. It's not uncommon to get snow and hail in the middle of summer here. That's just a regular thing that has always been the case, that it might be 100 degrees, but you can go down the road and it might be snowing just a few miles down the road, even though it's 100 degrees today. So that's kind of wild. When you're driving down the road and you're like, what are those clouds? Why do those clouds look so dark? Why am I on snow? It's the middle of summer. Why is there snow on the road? Oh, yeah, 2021, like the movie, yeah. That's we are getting there. And this kind of place, I think, will still be insulated a little bit from that extreme kind of weather, but I'm really concerned about climate change displacement. This is not something that gets talked about very much anymore. Oh, you meant February 2021, not the movie 2021. Okay. Huge snow and cold lover. I'm from the north. From North Texas. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind the cold, or so I thought, but living here has been kind of hard on me, on my body. After about 2 or 3 months of winter, I get cold. Like, I get cold. I'm done being cold. I'm a warm-bodied kind of person. I'm one of those people where I'm a heater. If you stand close to me, you can feel the heat emanating from my body. I'm a hot person. I generally generate a lot of heat. and I like to be warm. I like to be cozy. I like to be warm. And after about 2 or 3 months into the winter, the warmth of my core just disappears. And it's so cold all the time, every day, everywhere is cold. There's no reprieve from the cold. There's even when you're sitting in front of the fire, you're just too hot. You're just too hot and somehow cold. I like the cold, but I'm coming to understand that that there is a such thing as too cold for me. So when I think about moving on to some other place to live, it will probably be in a place that's less cold than this. For some reason, the Arctic outbreak of February 21 has been an obsession for me. Ah, right. I remember that now that, okay. Arctic outbreak of 2021. I remember that too. Love the cold. It's all about how you dress. Yes, I do. I wear wool socks. I wear wool socks all winter long. Like I don't sleep in them, but I wake up in the morning and the first thing I do is put on my wool socks. I have real wool sweaters, 2 or 3 that are 100% wool, because if it's cut, it's not doing it. Right? If you get like a 50-50 blend sweater, that's a joke out here. It's not gonna do anything. Your 50-50 blend is a joke. Especially considering the wind. If you're in the wind is just gonna cut right through your whatever sweater it is. Anyway, so it requires wool, but you've also have to have enough wind breakage. And it's about layers. I layer a lot in the winter. Wool keeps you warm, but breathes and sheds heat really well. Yeah, wool is 100%. Cotton and wool, those are my go-tos. And 100% cotton, 100% wool. I can do like an 80-20 blend when it comes to wool. I mean, I get it. Some people, the wool is just too scratchy. You've got to have a little bit of blend. I don't care. Give me the scratchy. Give me the wool. I don't care about the scratchy. Have a wool base layer when I go on outside, yeah. Also, having central heating helps. That's true. Where I am, central heating just isn't a thing. I don't know anybody that has central heating out here. Almost everybody's wood stove or some kind of propane furnace or something like that. Merino for soft, yeah. But merino's expensive. I love, yeah, no blend, gotta be wool. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, merino is so nice. I love merino, but it's even if you just buy a skein of merino wool yarn, it's like $300 for just the wool. It's not even in a wearable format. And that's an exaggeration, not quite that much, but it's expensive. Use the waterproof breathable membrane shell. Gore-Tex or North Face. North Face is a brand I see a lot. I'm not familiar with Gore-Tex. Might be that. There's another one too that some friends of mine turned me on to last year. And I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. I'll have to think about it. Yeah, yarn is way more expensive than clothes. What's up with that? Well, I mean, capitalism. That's what's up with that. You know, I don't need the explanation. I know the answer already. It's just absurd. North Face makes them super cheap as rain jackets. Yes, and that's I've got a good rain jacket that that I just got at the end of last winter. And I started to wear it, and it was almost too warm for the end of winter, so I haven't even really worn it that much. But it's I don't know if it's North Face. I think it's a generic off brand of North Face. But it's a rain jacket, and that rain jacket is actually really quite thick, and it's got a good insulation, a good underlayer, whatever that's the undercoat, the underlayer. Okay. Gel is super waterproof. Okay. Full prices are costs extra to do the labor yourself. Yeah. Yeah, I have. You know what's even more funny about that, Matt? There are places around here where people just give out their wool. They just give it away by the bag. You can go and just they have massive the gallon sized trash bags. You can just go get a whole bag of wool, and places will give it to you for free because there's an abundance of it here. Yeah. And what's funny is it's so expensive to ship it. Yeah, lots of cleaning. Well, and you have to have all of the right tools, right? That's the other thing. If you get raw wool, you need to be able to do the what's it called? The whatever this process is called, where you brush the wool. That's probably just called brushing the wool. But you've got to get a wool brush, the brusher. With one of those big drum things that rolls over, and you pack it full of wool, and you brush all the till it can't brush anymore, and then it's packed full, and once it's full, then you scrape it all off, and then you brush it all over again. Traveling, that would be the way to do it. Shipping isn't worth it, because that was the first thing that occurred to me was, somebody was like, you're giving away wool, $signs, right? $signs. I could make money off of that, but then I looked up how much it would be to process and to ship it, and it's not worth the work. I would be paying money to sell wool, to try and turn it into a business. Bring some, but if I could bring it to some festival, then that would be a really good idea. Man, YouTube has been real quiet tonight. I keep meaning to check and see if it's even still going. Yeah, the live stream is still streaming on YouTube. Really quiet over there. Yeah, yeah, whatever. I don't know. I don't need to understand what's going on. Sell it online. Yeah, that's if you can process. That's the thing. The process requires more upfront capital than I have access to. The process of processing the wool would require more upfront capital than I have the ability to. It's something that I thought about a lot, like 2 years ago, and even a year and a half ago. I was so broke, and I was constantly looking for ways to earn extra money just to be able to survive out here. But now that I have this other job with Southern New Hampshire University, it's not a lot of, because I only work one semester. I'm at some point I might or I only teach one course every semester. At some point, I might step that up, but for now, that's all I needed was just a little bit of extra income so that I could breathe. And so now I've got that little bit of extra income. I'm about to be in a place where I can start paying off my debt. I don't know if I've bragged about this online yet on the stream, but starting next month, I should be able to pay off one of my credit cards next month. And once I pay off that credit card, that's a whole extra monthly payment that I now get to put towards this other credit card. So I'm paying down the principal at 3 times the speed, which means that it will only be a few months, 2 or 3 months, before that credit card is paid off. And then I'll have 2 credit cards paid off. Yeah. It's been a long time coming. Years and years that I have been under debt, credit card debt. So I'm finally about to be in a place where I can be on top of that, start to pay it down, start to breathe a little bit, and then I'll have a little bit of other kinds of freedom that I can relax a little bit. I'll be able to travel, right? I can spend time working on the van so that I can travel, and then I can take whole semesters off if I feel like it. Which I have never, ever, ever been able to do in the entire time that I've been teaching. I have never, ever taken a semester off of teaching because I can't afford that. I will starve if I take a semester off. Have a habit of refilling them after I pay them off. Yeah, that has been a real struggle. So this month especially, yesterday, actually, I can think of 5 times off the top of my head yesterday where I was like, well, I could just go ahead and put this on credit card. I'm going to get paid on Friday, and then I'll have enough. I can just pay that stuff off. And I'm like, don't do that, Self. Don't put any more on it, Self. So it's just, it's hard. It is hard. Because I had a lot of stuff to do, a lot of stuff going on, things that I wanted to spend money on. I wanted to eat food. I'm hungry and in town and I want to eat, and I just don't. I wait, drive the hour home so that I can make a sandwich at home. I cannot afford to spend $5 out picking up some food while I'm out. That's too much for me right now. In a few months, when I'm on top of my debts and I've got some money in the bank, sure, I can just decide to spend $10 or $15 on this and 2 or 3, extra purchases here throughout the day. It's not that big of a deal, but right now I'm in a place where I need to be able to go 7 days at least where I don't spend any money at all. In every pay period, half of that I need to spend $0 because the other 7 days, that's my paycheck. But next month we're almost there. I've only got a few more weeks. Really, it's 2 paychecks even from now, which is even more exciting. When I think about it that way, it's not next month, it's only 2 paychecks. That makes it seem even sooner. So I mean, next month is 2 weeks away. So anyways, brains are funny that we find a difference there when there's really not a meaningful difference there. But that's where I'm at, is just trying to avoid that habit. Uh-oh. Looks like my connection just dropped really, really, really badly. I went from 0% drop frame rate to 2% drop frame rate in a second. So that's pretty big. I'm just gonna wait a minute before I say anything important or meaningful, I guess. Talk about my bad connection. Still not a good connection. Maybe there's a storm brewing. Usually when there's a storm brewing, I can look out the window and see it. But sometimes we get storms from that side. Sometimes we get storms from that side. So I might have a storm inbound that is interfering with my internet because my connection is still not good. Like it dropped significantly all of a sudden, and it has not gotten better. Okay, I might call it then. Cuz it's looking bad. It's every time my bars start to go up, they drop. And they'll start to climb, and they'll start to climb, and they'll start to climb, and then they drop. And they start to climb, and they start to climb, and then they just drop. Yeah. Yeah. That's the ticket, Matt. Let's do that. Let's raid Noisy. They're on, right? Yeah, it's already after 4. They're on. All right. And we've got enough viewers. The last time, I think you were there when I worked it out with, but I was like, Noisy, I was trying to raid you and I couldn't raid you. But then he explained that it's because he was getting raided by the same person who just kept raiding and over and over again. So he's changed the settings. And then he changed the settings for me. I don't know if you had that conversation. Anyway, I'm just babbling for no good reason. Let's go raid Noisy. The Noisy Immigrant is fantastic. They are good. They're already in the news, diving into the news. They won't shut up about Palestine, and we shouldn't shut up about Palestine, so go give them some love so that we can make a whole bunch of noise about Palestine together. Good. Good. Raid is going on. It's after 6. Yeah, we're in different time zones, but yeah, it's after 6 on the East Coast. So yeah, and that's the reason why I wasn't raiding Noisy for a while is because I had tried to raid him several times and kept getting denied. It wouldn't let me raid, and it was because of the I have to have enough viewers. If I have only one viewer, that's not enough to raid into Noisy. But we've got 3, so that'll do. Thank you everyone for being here. Thank you everybody for this has been a hangout. This has been a hangout stream. Thank you, Jane and Matt, for hanging out with me today. You are fucking awesome people. I love you. I appreciate you coming and hanging out with me and talking to me about philosophy and about the weather and about how pretty things are. I just appreciate you all. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Everyone watching the VOD, I hope you have a great day at home. And until the next time I see you, I'm out of time, so you'll have to be excellent to each other.